Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Ian Carlos Crawford.
I'm Barrett White.
I'm Ashley K. Smalls. And we are here today to talk about the new MCU show, Echo.
So I'll start with like our general reactions. Ashley, what'd you think overall?
It was okay. Slow start.
Yeah.
I actually was gonna text you like after episode 2, like, how are you enjoying this? Because I'm gonna let you know right now, it's looking shaky. I don't know if I'm gonna be going in there saying I watched the whole thing. But it picked up by episode 3, thankfully. But it definitely was a slow start. I'm happy that you dropped all the episodes, because if I had to do this week by week, I think by week 3 when it got good, I don't know if I would have been tapped in.
Yeah. I feel like you and I would have been very cranky by the time we got to 3. Brett, what about you?
I mean, I think I was more enthralled by it because I really like took to the supporting cast like pretty immediately. I thought they were all really great. But again, like I watched all 5 episodes in 3 hours. Like by midnight on the day it was released, I was done.
Shit. Okay.
Because I mean, it's only it's like 5 30 to 40 minute episodes.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it was proportional to the commitment. You know, like it was good enough for like a 3 hour, all in one binge.
That's fair. Yeah.
And that was. But yeah, if I had like week by week, I think they were very smart in not doing this week by week. And that's not to say that it's bad. I mean, I honestly think like a lot of the Marvel shows could have benefited from either multi-episode drops or all at once. So I think they made the right move with this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I definitely was like clocking out a little bit in the first 2 episodes. But I do agree, Brett, I think the supporting cast really was its strength. And I actually think this could have used like 1 or 2 more episodes almost. I wish we had a little bit more time with the supporting cast, because by the end of it, when her sister is kidnapped, but her sister has her hair down, I was like, who is that? Because in the prior scene, her hair was up, and I am that dumb that I was like, well, that's not her sister, because, oh, right, it is.
For how close their bond was, she really didn't do much in the series. I mean, I'm assuming maybe she was a victim of the edit or whatever.
Yeah. Because wait, do either of you know, I kept hearing people say this, but I couldn't find it in an article, that like, they like cut it shorter.
Yeah.
I think
I assume it was originally a 6 episode, and all the doomsday rumors about like there was a ton of reshoots, it was unreleasable. I mean, I remember seeing an early trailer for this at I guess D23 in 2021 or whenever. I mean, that had a lot of footage that I don't think I saw in this. And when you look at the 5 episodes we got, I mean, it really is. The last episode's like a half hour. The first episode maybe has 15 minutes of new footage in it. The first episode is just Hawkeye.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I did pick up on
So it really is like, it's like they took what was probably going to be a 6 episode series and pared it down to about essentially 4, Yeah,
I wonder what, I don't know that, because they did have this, they've been talking about this show for like since Hawkeye came out, right? Didn't we go no watching the show that she was getting her own series?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, and then there was we'll probably talk about it, but there was the whole heavily rumored subplot about, Matt Murdock comes to town looking for someone. It's probably Jessica Jones. That just everyone spoke about with such certainty. And I that feels like a thing that was probably cut out. And as a Daredevil superfan, I'll say probably the right move.
Yeah, no, it would have became Daredevil's show, which clearly a certain subsection of, MCU fans wanted, and would not have been fair to, like, if you're going to do an Echo show, then stick to it. And if you are going to use side characters to give more of, another character something to do, then just go ahead and expedite his show if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah. It's very, Reed Richards is going to come in and save Wanda. It's very that energy, like them really, really wanting any white male from the Marvel Universe to come and save her. One that we've never seen before, just all of a sudden making a debut. So yeah, I obviously would have loved more Daredevil, but I do think if you're the person complaining about not getting enough of the white man in Marvel's first ever Indigenous lead series, maybe reevaluate your priorities.
Yeah, I do think it was a mistake for them to show Daredevil in every preview, because it's like, well, he's in it for like 25 seconds and it's cool, but I think that
it's
would have been a
very good,
cooler surprise. Don't you both think?
Yeah.
But I do feel like they were like, oh shit, let's throw Daredevil and he's in it, so let's throw him in the commercials so that way we like get those fans. But okay, so I think, and this is maybe it's not even like a complaint. It's just I feel like they were kind of going for they were going for the MCU Netflix vibe.
Oh yeah.
But taking her out of the city so quickly kind of like changed. I don't know. I don't know. For street level, I like it to be like the streets of like the city where there's a bunch of people, and like making it not that, I don't know, because then I liked all the supporting characters, and like we wouldn't have gotten them if we were in the city.
I think they could have done more to show the streets of Tamaha.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
You know, because I like that she went there because there was a Fisk like shipping station, outpost, house, whatever, department, warehouse, whatever. And she knew like, okay, this is one I can get into because like my uncle basically runs it. So I can just get in there. I can, set the explosives on it, blow them the fuck up and get out. Because I read one review that was like, we don't even know why she's there. And I was like, okay, well, I was paying attention.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. But I mean, we should have seen more of like, Fisk's grip on the family and the town, and, and also like more preparation for the powwow, because like one of the things I loved was the very bizarre feud between that bead maker and Echo's grandma.
Yes. I also like, so I was reading a bunch of reviews today to see like, I don't know what other people were saying, and some of the complaints were really annoying. Some of the complaints were like, oh, we don't explain why Daredevil's there or who he is, and it's like,
that is very telling of yourself as a fan if you need for them to verbally make that link for you, even if you didn't watch the show. It should not take a rocket scientist to understand that this is a very common, and he says, I was watching them all night and then you guys came along, so you very clearly see, and also this is taking place during the blip, so I mean,
it's also like he's a guy in a mask, and this is a Marvel show. So even if you don't even know who Daredevil is, he is miscellaneous superhero. Like,
I think, honestly, I'm sorry, but that definitely speaks to the kinds of fans who are into MCU and not really Marvel itself. When you need your hands when you need your hands held for every little thing, because you should be able to drop in on this random crime that's happening. Understand that this is a world where random ass people put on a mask because they have whatever super abilities. Like it doesn't take rocket science. I'm just sorry. Like, you're a dumbass. Like you need everything explained to you. You need everything connected to the original Avenger story or whatever. It's like, please, you
what? And then inversely, I read something that was like, oh, you need like a PhD to understand the universe. And like this show, you very much do not. Like,
that's why it's a Marvel spotlight, which is funny, but like, it is weird. I think honestly, like, it was really funny when they announced that Marvel Spotlight thing of like, these are going to be projects that, aren't really tied into the main content. And I was thinking like, well, this is a spinoff from Hawkeye that's bringing in potential continuity from a whole other streaming service and multiple other seasons. So it feels like this is not diverse. This is two continuities, but I still think that like the fact that they devoted almost all of episode 1 to just previously on Hawkeye, which I did like that they, presented in chronological order and gave us a whole lot of new stuff to show, connecting the dots. But I feel like they did a very good job of establishing who she is, and then they got her away from all that stuff to a place we've never seen before. So I think that this did a really good job of balancing, like, being very continuity heavy while not being continuity heavy at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think it's weird because I'm like bummed that it's not getting it's getting very mixed reviews. I feel like it's either people are like, this is great, or like, this is like dog shit. But I guess that's also kind of how Marvel gets reviewed these days, right?
Yeah.
But like, I did think it was like a little too slow. And this is just my problem. My ADD brain, I need to be like doing something while I'm watching. And this was a show you kind of couldn't do that because like you had to read what they were saying.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of times where I was like, wait a minute, I don't know what happened the last 10 minutes. Let me skip back and watch that again. Like the first episode, I think I watched those first like 30 minutes like twice because it was just like, oops, I wasn't paying attention. But then, like you said, Brett, it was mostly showing you what happened.
Yeah.
In Hawkeye.
I mean, I'm like the opposite in that, like, I really like the fact that for 3 hours, I like put my phone away and was able to just like, you know, I put all the lights on like a red, moody something or other. And then you know, closed the blinds and I was able to escape into a Marvel show for like 3 solid hours, which is like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do think she is really good. Like I don't know. I appreciated that she, you know, she is deaf, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I appreciated that. And I felt like, I don't know if you both saw, there was like, in the new Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials, there was some like special agent that she was in a wheelchair. And of course the like dumb, like incels were mad because there was a black trans woman and there was a woman in a wheelchair who was like an agent. And they were like, oh, she doesn't even do it right. And they were like complaining about that actor, saying she was bad at pretending, but like the woman actually uses a wheelchair in real life. But like these dummies don't know, like, yeah, sometimes you can move your legs a little bit if you're in a wheelchair. Doesn't mean you don't.
Oh my God.
And
it's just like basic knowledge you accrue living life.
Right. Like I remember as a kid being like, Mom, that person got out of the wheelchair. They don't need one. And she was like, 1, mind your business. And 2, yes, they do. You don't know what they need. Like, I just remember her like immediately yelling at me and being like, shut up. And learning that pretty quickly. But yeah, I don't know. I like seeing that because I also sometimes, she would like kind of whisper speak the words. And that, you know, some deaf people do that. So I kind of liked, she didn't always do it, but she did it sometimes. And I liked that aspect of how real it felt and how she conveyed her emotions. I liked that her family, you know, all spoke ASL with her.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that they didn't minimize it either. Like I did have to pay attention. And again, that's on my ADD brain of being like, okay, you actually have to look to see what they're saying. And I like that they didn't try to, you know, when we did the thing with Kingpin, when he brings her the contact, I was like, that's a little cheap, but I get it. And then I kind of like that.
And it fits in with his characterization of like, you know, because she even calls out like, you love me, you've never even learned sign language.
Yes.
Like, you had to go and get some like former Stark employees to work off the clock.
That subtle kind of message in terms of like the difference between, I don't like using the term actual family because obviously adopted family can be, you know, your real family. But like that's in the sense of when someone's telling you they're your family, but aren't really showing you compared to like everyone in her family could speak with her, like even her extended family members. Like it wasn't just like secluded to her parents and her grandparents. All her uncles, her cousins knew how to talk. And then also even the two people who could hear, you know, using sign language to talk to each other when they were being taken hostage to send messages to each other. So it became very clear that knowing ASL was a way in which they communicated to make sure that everyone in their family felt included, compared to Fisk saying, you know, he calls you his niece and you know, she does see him as her uncle, even in the ending scene when, you know, she could very much be like, fuck you, you manipulated me. She still calls him her uncle, but like, I really did like that call out of the fact that like the other people who call her family make the effort to make sure that they can communicate with her the way that she prefers rather than trying to find shortcuts.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I watched, there's like a featurette or something that's on Marvel, on the YouTube about, they were talking about the ASL and how like they even like differentiated it by even family member like Bonnie, since they like are the same age and grew up together. Like
Mhm.
she grew up having to speak ASL, so she doesn't talk while she signs because she's fluent. Whereas the grandparents who had to learn it later in life still like mouth along. There's actually a name for it when you say while signing. So that like I really love that attention to detail of like, you know, the younger people who learned it when they were younger are more fluent than the older. It's just cool.
You know, that's funny because when I was a kid, that's how my grandma taught me Spanish. Is she would say something in Spanish, and she would kind of gauge if I understood or not, and then just repeat it in English. And that's how I got to like
Mm.
learn it. Is because she would always speak to like her grandkids in Spanish, but she would do the thing where like if she thought they didn't understand, then she would say it in English so that we knew. And I don't know. Yeah, I think that like, you know, and that's someone whose first language was Spanish and she learned English, but like I don't know. I think that like the grandparents doing the communicating with I don't know. I just like that, and I didn't know that was considered
Yeah.
something different, and I like that that is. That's like a good detail. I also I liked the thing I really liked the grandma Chula. I liked that she was able to be flawed.
Hmm.
That's a big thing I've been thinking about lately with like you know, like discourse on certain movies that's just so stupid and like wanting everyone to be pure. I liked that like the grandma kind of fully owns up to I only couldn't be around you because you reminded me of my daughter.
And
And
also, like, I hated your dad.
yeah,
Like, and fully, like, that's not a virtuous thing. I mean, that Tantu Cardinal, the actress, like, God, I mean, I wish that these shows could be considered for Emmys, which, you know, they won't ever be taken seriously, I guess. But
They
I
no,
thought
do
she
yeah.
for
was,
like the technical aspects. Like I can see it
yeah,
building
but
to like
like,
costumes and stuff
she
like
was so good. I
that.
Yeah.
really, really liked her a lot.
Yeah, and I thought there's a the scene when they're at the house talking, and I forget what Echo specifically what she specifically says to her, something and you abandoned me. And the grandma lets out like this like very sad whimper, and I was like, oh god, my heart.
Hmm.
And it like I don't know, you could feel that the grandma did feel guilt over that, right? Like and
Yeah.
I appreciated that. I appreciated that it wasn't just I don't know, sometimes with this shit it's like either they like want it to be the older relative is you know black or white like oh they're like either like staunchly bad or staunchly good and I like that it was like she just was grieving and in pain so she kind of pushed her away right
Yep.
she kept the other sister but not her which is a shitty move and like you understand why she might have these like ill feelings towards her grandma right like she split up her and her sister but then you like also understand kind of where the grandma was coming from um I do have a question for you. Question for the class. I can't remember. Hawkeye. Hawkeye technically kills her father, right? I don't
Yes.
remember the. I don't remember the how it actually was Kingpin.
Now that
Kingpin,
part
like,
I have
told
to
him
say,
where
I
they
was
were, right?
what happened?
Kingpin told him, like, Kingpin's the one that, like, told Ronan where to go, basically, I think is the thing, like leaked that to Hawkeye
Um,
to go kill. Basically, like, turned Ronan into an accidental assassin for, to, you know, knock him out. So, which they did not really explain in this.
Yeah, they didn't really they that like in all that they went over in Hawkeye. I mean, from Hawkeye in this show, like that's something that should have been reiterated because I did not rewatch Hawkeye before watching this.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, looking back on Hawkeye, I mean, it could be that because it's been like a couple years since I've seen it, but I don't remember them going into like I do remember the scenes in which he says. I think that just also comes down to them not really engaging with the discourse about the fact that Hawkeye was very clearly a villain and like not really wanting to have that conversation. The fact that he was attacking mostly people of color because
right.
like it was like one of those things of like we know like I do believe Brett you're right in terms of he was sort of led down that road because he was you know told I guess wrong information but you still killed him and that's also because you were on a warpath and
Yeah.
so you know like we weren't having enough of a conversation like it was just sort of a breeze through when clearly it should have been a little bit more um we should have been having more of a conversation around it so
It's kind of like at the end of Guardians when Ronan is dead and they're like, hey, Drax, hey, Ronan's dead. He's like, no, now I have to go after Ronan's boss, Thanos, you know? And I feel like it was kind of like that like Hawkeye absolutely killed your father, but it was Kingpin that was like, hey, can you go kill this guy? Can someone go tell Ronan to go kill this guy?
Yeah, because like I mean, Ashley, yeah, I do think it's like, well, let's absolve Hawkeye of this because
Yeah.
technically he still did stab her father with his weapon and literally kill him.
Well, and also the like dozen other people there too. It's like there should be like a dozen echoes running around being like, "Where kill Hawkeye?"
I like the idea of there being every series. There's like 10 more series of someone wanting to get revenge on Hawkeye. Because I mean, that would make sense.
That should be the whole fucking show.
Yeah, I did like. God, even one of the articles I saw was like, "Ooh," and they don't explain who that was, and it's like, I don't. What? Like he is.
They don't explain who Jeremy Renner is.
Right? Like, come on, he's like literally one of the first Avengers in the movies. If you don't know who he is, I like, sure, like my mom or dad might have been like, wait, who's that? But like, I don't know, right? Like,
I mean, like, odds are I don't know who is watching Echo that has never watched another Marvel thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that, like, just if you've just seen a random assortment of Marvel stuff, Jeremy Renner's been in enough of it. Like,
yeah.
I feel like, and he's also just one of the more famous people on Earth.
He was the most
his
plug last year because of the accident. Like, so
yeah,
people clearly know him.
Yeah. Yeah. People want to have the same complaints of Marvel forever. And that I feel like that's just always going to be one of the annoying things. People are like, oh, they didn't explain this, or they explain it too much, or it's like, it's the same thing where it's like, there's not enough cameos or there's too many cameos.
Oh,
and it's
God.
like,
yeah,
there's no winning on that end. Yeah. So I think a thing that has been like a little bit bumming me out, which I keep thinking of, is like the shows where Marvel takes their like swings of like diversity and doing something different are on things like this and the Eternals, where like it feels like they're like, let's see. And it's like such a low stakes character where like no one knows them, so people care less. And then they can be like, well, look, it didn't work. I'm glad at least there are some good reviews for it, and some people who seem to like it more than, any of the three of us did, which I'm glad, because I don't want it to be like the one, like you said, it's like the one show led by a woman of color, and she's, deaf and
an amputee and indigenous.
Yes.
Like, I mean, and so like, I think the thing to really talk about, which kind of speaks to your point, is like this whole series almost existed to turn Echo into like a bona fide Marvel superhero, because I remember like watching like the featurettes, and because I live for that shit. I live for behind the scenes shit that gets me hyped. And they were talking about like,
oh, such a good source of info for all of the behind the scenes stuff.
They're just like, oh, this is our first Native American superhero. And in my, dumb like Marvel super nerd brain, I'm like, well, I mean, she has photographic reflexes and, has been around for about 20 years, but never really stuck her. I mean, she died in the Moon Knight comic book and she was Ronin for, like, my nitpicky brain is like, she doesn't really have superpowers. So I don't know if you can call her super. So I love, I love that they did actually take the time to give her like a superhero costume that means something to her and her heritage, and incorporates her comic book, like the Sunburst like logo thing, and also gave her actual superpowers. That was very like Buffy to one in the generation. From this point on, anyone who could be potential is a Slayer, which I appreciated.
Brett, I am so glad you brought that up, because that's exactly what I was thinking. But of course, that's what I was thinking.
I mean, it's so like, that moment was, I think the finale is very clumsy, very much the result of, I mean, it felt very WandaVision finale of like, we got to wrap this thing up fast and reshoots. But I did appreciate them taking the Echo that we have in the comics and actually like giving her the history and gravitas and mythology and shit that is reserved for all the superheroes that were created by white men in the 60s. So I think that's cool.
Okay, speaking of the finale, the thing I liked is we got everyone kind of working together, but it still did feel like the WandaVision finale because I also had no clue what she actually did to Kingpin, and he just leaves.
I heard the way in which they didn't really explain her power,
right?
In terms of what it is. We just see that when she puts her fingers together, apparently something can happen. You're not explaining, is it telekinesis? Is it telepathy?
Right.
Telepathy?
She heals the wounds.
See, that's what I'm talking about. That's
yes.
And while we're on that subject, like I do not like this. I think it works for her, even though I would like them to properly explain better what it is that she can do. But if you've ever read an Echo comic, you know the reason why she's called Echo is not because of this power, because of her ancestors echoing through her, is because she basically has the same powers as Taskmaster. She can copy people's movements. And I mean, Marvel has basically made it very clear they don't want any two people in the MCU who have the same powers. So I guess I shouldn't be shocked that they, of course, changed her powers. But I am not. I like that. I think it works for Echo. I just don't like this trend we seem to be on with the MCU, where every time they introduce a person, I shouldn't say a superhero because she's not a superhero, but like a character of color who's going to have superpowers, their superpowers have to be linked to their ancestry or their identity in some way. Like we're now, of course, it made sense with Black Panther. That's his actual story. But then they did that with Miss Marvel, and now they're doing it with Echo. I don't like this trend. It's like the only characters who we have who are kind of superpowered individuals. And really they don't have superpowers themselves, but it's like the only characters we have who are superheroes, who are just superheroes for the fact that they're just, skilled, is like the characters who were formerly sidekicks, like Rhodey and Falcon, well, Captain America now. And so I don't like that every time they try to introduce a character of color with superpowers, it has to be that like, it's a little lazy. And I think it's starting to become a little overdone. Even with, for example, Namor, they changed his backstory to be linked to his
name.
So I'm just exactly. So it's just like, it was cool for a while, but now this is starting to become a bit of repetition. And you know me, I always get very nervous because the person I'm gonna think of most is Storm. And even though, especially because like you can do so much with their ancestry to link it to who they are as superpowered individuals without needing their powers themselves to link back to it. Like, there's so much to do with Storm's story around her ancestry without having to make it seem like she's a mutant, but it's specifically, witchcraft because her mother was a high priest. Like, no, let's not. I see where you're going with this. I don't like it. So let's.
She was like, stop.
I think what you're also kind of touching upon is like the failure of the American public school system in a way, because like both Echo and Ms. Marvel were also kind of doing the like PBS heavy lifting of like, here is actual history that none of you like white people, none of you Americans know, because they won't teach you like correct history. So it's almost like the Marvel shows are taking on the role of like, okay, well, we also need to just, for the culture, we got to explain something so that people can actually see beyond the stereotypes. And so I like that every episode, like the first 3 episodes, started with a Choctaw legend, which I think are all. I tried to like look up. I was on my phone, and I hate doing Wikipedia on my phone. But like, I think the one cool thing is like the stickball game that I think is episode 2. That's where fucking lacrosse comes from, guys. I did not know that until I went to the Wikipedia and was like,
I did not know that either.
Well, and also it's because, again, growing up in the South in fucking Tennessee and getting all of my history that way, like we're never taught that like Native peoples had like that looked like a modern sporting game. Like we might as well have been in Manchester watching a soccer match. Like, it was so like big and grand. And they're like, this is in fucking Alabama. You know, like this happened, and this is a part of our American history that we don't talk about because we're ashamed of. Well, now we're not ashamed. We just don't want to talk about how we committed genocide. So I love that we actually got to see that in all its grandeur, and then going on Wikipedia and finding out that is where the fucking whitest sport, like the Ivy Leagues, co-opted this native, this native sport, turned into lacrosse. Like wild. Anyway,
I did not know that. Huh.
Yeah.
So I did. A thing I also want to talk about is Kingpin, because I think I can now say this. I think I felt this before, but I think he is one of the maybe top 5 best MCU villains, and I'm so glad he is in the MCU, because I do think, like, when she sees him on her porch, the dread I felt, it was like,
oh God,
horror movie dread, where it's like, oh fuck, Ghostface is here and he's looking at Gale Weathers, like fuck. Vincent D'Onofrio is so fucking good as that character. Like it
and
makes
cares
sense.
so much.
Yes, I was gonna say,
like
it makes
the fact
sense that he
that
loves playing him.
the footage of the red carpet where he had David Mack, the creator of Echo, like with him and was like talking to reporters and being like, this is David Mack. He created Echo. I also consulted with him a whole bunch, like while doing Daredevil. Like that's so cool.
Yeah.
He has kind of a share presence on Twitter that I enjoy.
Because it's like he's like a boomer but liberal, and I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
he's great. He's great, and I'm so glad he's in the MCU. And God damn it, I want to see him and Tom Holland in a scene together.
Yes, especially because I did really like that final fight in Hawkeye between him and Kate Bishop, and she is so much smaller than him, it makes him even more imposing, and I would assume he is also so much bigger than Tom Holland that he would seem very imposing as well next to like baby twunk-sized Tom Holland. Yeah, but I think Vincent D'Onofrio is such a good, like, I like how, if this makes sense, like, I like that he is both clearly a good, like, businessman, whatever you call that, but also, like, a sociopath, and he does, for all of the terribleness, he does care about her, right? Like, I do think in his way of caring about someone, she is, like, aside from Vanessa, who we have not heard of in the MCU official yet, I think Echo's, like, the person he cares about most, who is alive, right?
In his own way.
Yeah.
Like how, like Thanos and Gamora.
Yeah. Yes. And I like that we see that. Like, he gives her that hammer, and he meant it when he was like, go ahead, set me free. Like, I don't think he was like trying to call a bluff. I think he was just like, yeah, sure, kill me. Okay. And I like that unhingedness of this, like, in a way, like this like bigger than life crime boss who cares for this woman that he adopted as a daughter, who clearly fucking hates him. He knows he killed her father, but he still does care about her, even though he killed her father.
And he also, like, you know, threatened to kill her uncle, we find out, and like all this, you know, he clearly doesn't have any compassion for, I mean, in the skating rink fight, which I think is, you know, probably the best moment of the series.
Yeah.
Up there. I mean, as soon as the Rob Zombie started playing, I was like, yeah, this is very much a skating rink that has a 1998 playlist, and Echo's turning it up to 11. But it's like he was ready to kill like everyone there until they were like, this isn't the right, you know, Maya, or like Maya's here or something.
Yeah. And I don't know. That's the kind of shit I like that I don't think we get as often with MCU. Like, we did get it with Thanos, but Thanos felt like, I don't know. I think there's something about Kingpin being just like a regular guy who's not really regular, but like for all intents purposes is like a regular human who just is like this brutal strength because he's so unhinged. And like, I don't know. I really like the scene that we saw when he beats the shit out of that street vendor who makes fun of Maya.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I need a new coat, because he doesn't want to scare this child. He actually cares enough about her that he's not only basically murdering a street vendor for being mean to her, but is like, oh, also get me a new coat because she will see the blood, she will get scared. And then we see her walk up, which I loved. I love that this little girl who is like, what, maybe 10?
Or
Is like,
younger, yeah.
yeah, I loved that scene because he then uses that against her later, right? When he's like, you never said no, you never pleaded for anyone's life. Like, you knew what you were doing. And I don't know. I just like, she was also a fucking child, dude. So, like,
Yeah.
she didn't know any better, but I thought that a lesser written series would have had that child be scared, right? It would have been like, oh, well, we can't have her do that because then it's her fault. But like, we know that she was a child. So, no, it's not her fault. Like, he basically like groomed her to be a murderer, right?
Yeah. That's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited that he's in the MCU.
Yeah, he's so good.
I think the most interesting, if you want to get into the nerdy nitty gritty or whatever of it, is the fact that they did import like the Netflix Kingpin origin to this series with the like. They even show a scene of him staring at like the white painting. I don't think it was footage from the Netflix series, but there was like when Echo goes like touches his heart and like goes back to past Kingpin.
Yeah.
Because remember, like when we first see Kingpin in Daredevil on Netflix, he's like at the museum and just staring at that big white painting. And we find out later on in the season that's because he would stare at a wall that looked like that while his mother was getting beaten. And so it's like triggered in his brain. So like the fact that they imported that over, is interesting. And they even used, like the one of the teasers for Echo was just an origin of Kingpin using all the Netflix Daredevil footage.
Oh, really?
Of like him as a kid killing his dad with a hammer and stuff. And so like,
because we did know that, right? We did know that.
Yeah. That's
okay.
revealed like in season 1 of Daredevil. Okay.
That's what I thought. But yeah, no, everyone can complain about that type of shit, but I think they did a good job of like weaving it into the story so you knew enough about him. Yeah. Like I said, the only thing I kept waiting for him to do was bring up Vanessa because, right, he like every scene in every like of those Netflix shows, he was talking about her.
I know. Oh, I love that Vanessa. And they fucking recast her.
Oh, they recast
which makes me
her?
think that it is a different. This is where I have to like turn off the comic book fan brain and just be like, just fucking watch it. It doesn't matter what universe it is. It can be a different Fisk, or they can have the same origin, but with a different Vanessa, it is all fine. Don't worry about it.
But then they also just announced just the other day that they are bringing Karen Page and Foggy Nelson.
Oh, they did announce that?
Yeah.
Man, I love my mental health leave. It's like, let's just chill and not do anything.
Yeah, right, Ashley, you saw that, right?
Yeah, I did. They did say that they're bringing her.
Yeah,
good. Because Karen Page is so good.
I do love her. Ashley, you're not a big fan, right?
The way that she fucking first shot Wesley and then 2 years later is like, hey, Kingpin, I fucking killed him. So good. She's a bad writer, but
I liked her on Punisher a lot too. I just like, I am so happy that we're bringing these characters in because not all of them stayed great in later seasons, but like
those first seasons though were
right?
The big one on all the Netflix shows. And Daredevil was like the only one that basically was able to maintain not that
the quality.
Yeah, and then the rest, like, because I was actually a bigger fan of Jessica Jones than anything else, and then those later seasons was just like,
oof.
What they did to Hellcat made
listen, I was ready for them to kill her. I was like, look, we can just get her out of here. I was like, we gotta go.
I went from like, I cannot wait to see her to become a superhero to like, dear God,
I was ready for I was straight up like, look, if
this is done.
Her, I won't even cry about it. I'm so serious.
And I'll be messy and always say that Iron Fist season 2 was actually.
I did not watch that one. It
was only 8 episodes, which, good thing number 1, 5 episodes shorter than all the other ones. And they really great fight scenes and the Misty Knight Colleen Wing team ups. And also fucking Alice Eve as Typhoid Mary was really, I loved that. Notice how I'm not talking about Iron Fist at all.
Brett, I think that's what you had. So I was like, ooh, someone told me that. I think it was you that was like, well, she is so good in it. That is a reason to watch. Yeah, because all of them I think have like really great first seasons. Iron Fist was not the best, but even Punisher, which is a character I never care about, I loved it. And I'm just really excited. Like the thing I think Echo did do well, I thought, I mean, it wasn't as violent as like Daredevil season 1 when you see that dude getting shoved onto a pole, but they did a good job. But like, I really thought it would be very sanitized violence. And while it was more sanitized, it was not like when that dude gets shot in the roller rink and like falls on the table and is just like staring at them dead.
Splays like Jesus over the table. Like, that was,
I was like surprised that they did that. And
okay, the dumbest moment in the whole fucking thing, though. Sorry,
no, what?
Because I just hit that. What did she fucking build in that janitor's closet that could shoot like lug nuts?
I have no idea. I didn't realize it wasn't bullets till she shot that woman, and the woman wasn't like shot. I was like, oh,
it's like she put like a rubber band on a roller skate, and like it was basically like all of a sudden Echo has MacGyver powers. So it's like we have not seen Hyde. Now there is precedent because her grandfather does, fix things up in a pawn shop, but it just came out of nowhere, and I was like, I don't know what is happening.
I definitely missed that because I was like, oh, she found a gun, and then I was like, oh, it's not a gun. I don't know what the hell this is. But yeah, no, I saw some people criticizing the fight scenes, but I thought they were good.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, what'd you think? Did you like them?
They linked in the show for me. Like, I remember I saw people complaining when the clips leaked onto social media. I shouldn't say leaked because it may have been a promo. But it looked a little bit like the practice shoot of them getting ready to film. So I don't know, but so I understood where some people were coming from in terms of the clips. But when it's time to watch the actual show, they worked really well for me, particularly the Daredevil one did well, and then the scene in the not bowling alley, the roller rink, was a really good fight scene as well. And it also just made me realize we really haven't had any like fight scenes in the MCU like that. I guess it's because everyone's been so super powered that instead of actual hand-to-hand combat, we just get people shooting lasers at each other. So it's like it was just nice to see like good old-fashioned, which is also when I think back about it, maybe it was a little bit of why I actually liked Hawkeye too. We didn't have as good fighting scenes as Echo, but definitely was a step up from the fact that we had just been watching, Iron Man throw a rocket someplace and then things blow up. Right. So, but I thought that they worked really well. It also could be that when you watch it on a TV screen, it's just a different viewing experience than seeing things on your phone.
Especially if they're like cropping it for, vertical phones or whatever could make it look weird. I also really liked the train sequence. Like that is probably the only moment of the series that actually felt big budget in a way. Like the shot of her jumping off of the train silhouetted by the moon going onto Biscuits' truck, which I cannot believe that I have gone 43 minutes and not mentioned that Biscuits is the sexiest man in the MCU.
I knew you were going to say that, Brett.
He was so cute. I loved him.
I have nailed down your specific type.
Protect Biscuits at all costs. I want Biscuits to intern at Nelson and Murdock. Get your law degree, Biscuits.
He's a character of him and the grandma were my favorites of the like family supporting characters. And I was afraid he was going to die because I feel like he was the one that you he was the nicer one. So I was like, oh, is he going to die? And that's going to be like a turning point. I don't want him to die. And I was glad he did not, but you know what I mean? He feels like the character that like they would kill and then that makes her come back and fight instead of like leaving or something like that. Also he like crushes to death a bunch of Kingpin's minions.
That's another one of those, man. Out of nowhere, he's got a fucking monster truck. Love it.
Well, do you have a weapon? He's like, I have something better. I'm like, what could possibly be better than a weapon? Oh, he's gonna smush them to death. Okay, cool. And like Right? That's like 2 vans full of, he like fully
Oh, yeah.
murders like 10 people.
Yeah. Bunch of dudes with guns.
We just breeze by it. Was the guy with the like maybe Russian German accent who we kept seeing, who was the one with the bazooka at the end that gets shot, was he from any of the previous series?
I don't think so.
Okay, because he was so like, he felt specific, and I like, in Hawkeye there was a lot of like wacky accents, so I was like, is he one of the guys from Hawkeye? And he's just not saying bro a lot, but no, he just.
I just hated his shirt collar. I could not get my mind off of that in the roller rink thing. Where like, it's like, what is this fucking weird ass? It looked like on Project Runway when they get a menswear challenge and none of them know how to do menswear, so it's just like, duh, I don't know. That's what. Anyway, I'm sorry. No one cares about that.
Brett. It's weird. Like, I didn't love the series, but I liked it, and I'm glad that it exists. And I kind of hope we get a little bit more like this. But I do think this could have used. And this was like maybe my only complaint of Jessica Jones, was I thought it was such a good premise, but Jessica Jones, like, I think maybe there's 2 episodes where she solves a standalone mystery, and like I could have used more. I think like these type of shows lend themselves to giving us a couple of like, maybe even if there was like a B plot of like, I don't know, some like C-list villain who's like in that town who happens to already be there, and she like also takes him out. Like, I think
making
that
a TV show.
Yeah. Yes.
They like, shouldn't be ashamed. I mean, like, this felt like, like in the 70s and 80s and even in the 90s, like TV movies were such a thing. And like every week there was a new one, and like actual like movie stars, maybe faded stars would star the big deal. Yeah. And I'm like, this could have been, you could edit out another hour from this and actually make it a tight Disney Plus original Marvel Spotlight movie, similar to, Werewolf by Night. And I think that what Boggs, I think that there's something to, I'm trying to think of how to say it, like Marvel stuff, people think Marvel stuff is so high stakes. I think people got so used to every Marvel thing setting the world on fire. Now, like, there need to be big stories, but there also need to be small stories. Like if we're gonna have,
your average criminal is not going to be Thanos trying to swap away half the world. It's going to be your Kingpins. I feel like honestly, that's one of the reasons why Spider-Man is ranked as such a high super. Like, he's the most popular. Like, that's not just me. Like, that's like he's ranked as the most popular superhero of all time. And I feel like a large part of that is the fact that like he's not really linked to like the sort of stuff you see in comic books where it's like the whole world's about to end. He's usually linked to like, he'll get your cat out of a tree. He helps stop your car from hitting grandma when she's crossing the street. And then also, he, stumbles upon the fact that like, Vulture has some, high plan that's about to put half the city at risk and needs to stop him as well. That's one of the reasons why I love the video games, because like you have this big mission that's happening, and even that big mission is usually only impacting New York. And then on the side, you'll have him, you'll have someone like, hey, Spider-Man, my grandfather has dementia and I can't find him. Can you help me find him? It's like, which is literally a storyline in the new Spider-Man game to come out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's dementia, but basically there's a girl in the game who like loses her father, her grandfather. I believe it's because of old age. He like wanders off somewhere, and she simply calls Spider-Man like, you can swing around all of New York. Can you please help me find him? This is what he looks like. And it's like, that's the kind of shit I want to see. I don't, don't get me wrong, I don't mind the big stuff, but it's like, it's hard to obviously do that with like the movies, because you have 3 hours. So that's what these TV shows should inevitably be about. And so it's like, I think, but unfortunately, when it comes down to MCU fandom, I do think because everyone is so used now to anything MCU related being high stakes, that when we do these more grounded stories, people say they want them, but then we see a little too much of these complaints. Like, we have to be expected to see complaints because people are who they are. But it's just like, it does get to a place of like, I don't understand. Last week you wanted more grounded stories, and this week it's too boring for you when it's just someone trying to protect their town, because we kind of saw that about Ms. Marvel too. It's like, yeah, she's trying to protect Jersey City. That's where her family
Yeah.
lives. Like she so yeah.
And I think that, like, it's similar to with like the Marvels of like, yeah, this was just a fun body swapping movie. Like, that's all, Marvel just needs to make fun movies, but people fucking want,
They want
everything to be
everything to be
Avengers
Endgame.
Endgame.
They want everything
And
to be
that is
Endgame.
not possible.
And it's
But I also
yeah.
think like Disney and Marvel need to realize you can spend less money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I don't know what the budget for Echo was. Hopefully the reshoots didn't push it like Secret Invasion into like, most expensive show ever. But I'm like, just do smaller stuff, because then it doesn't have to make as much money in order for y'all to be like, it was a success.
Because look at the budget of the Netflix shows. I mean, respectfully, I'm not saying that, of course, they still cost millions, but it's like most of Jessica Jones was Kilgrave in her mind, following behind her, and it was creepy as shit. It was still very David Tennant. He's really conniving villain in all of that, and you didn't have to have him, with like superpowers that would themselves cost $50 million to bring to the screen. It's like, just have the actor do their job. So it's like
tell a good story, man.
Exactly. So it's like in this clear goal of trying to get this like Netflix energy, which they hit it in some scenes in this show, and then there were others. I would say it was like 60% Disney doing what Disney does, and then 40% them trying to reiterate clearly what people loved from the Netflix content.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, I really do hope they lean more so into that, because like those shows did not cost anywhere. I mean, I'm saying that when I don't really know the numbers, but they didn't feel like it was literally a camera following her behind Luke Cage, and then like fight scenes breaking up, and then Luke Cage walking around Harlem. Like I struggle to believe they had to spend the type of money they probably had to spend on like Secret Invasion or even Ms. Marvel trying to bring those graphics.
And I love that. It's like, oh god, my brain went away. Oh no, when they started the shows, I think part of the problem is like when, Disney Plus and Kevin Feige like announced all these shows, they had a very, well, it's not television. We're basically doing like 6-part movies that are going to be like on the scale of the movies, and they're going to have the budget of the movie. Like, they were very like, we're not doing television, which I think ended up biting them in the ass, because all of your TV shows start like they weren't TV shows, and then you get culminating with Secret Invasion, which is just like, y'all tried really hard to make this look like an air quote feature film, and then you ended up having to shoot it twice because it wasn't good. Like, you can be television. Like Echo felt like Ms. Marvel felt like television. She-Hulk felt like television. This felt more like television. So I'm just saying, let's give us more scales, guys. More scales.
No, I agree with that, and it's weird because it's so annoying, right? Because again, the 2 shows you named, right? It's like they're taking chances with like, I don't know, like, of course, Ms. Marvel is the one. And it's like, I feel like then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy if, well, the show didn't do well. And it's like, well, but you're doing it, like, you're only doing, like, you're making sure that like the Captain Americas have like their big, and it's like, I think, even a character like Captain America, I like seeing having like a one-off crime to solve that's one episode.
Oh, I'd love that. God.
You know what I mean? Like, I do like, because the thing I've been thinking about a lot lately is like when a lot of the complaints, and Ashley, you say this all the fucking time too, a lot of the complaints these people have, it's like, well, you've never read a comic book. This is how comic books operate. Like, like the fact that someone was complaining about, oh, well, they don't like, why are Daredevil and Hawkeye there? And it's like, but this is still a comic book movie. Like, this is based off a comic book, and that is how comic books like operate.
Yeah, like you would get like 2 pages of Wolverine randomly popping out, and then he's no longer there. It's like, because I'm like, which honestly makes more sense. It's like you're telling me we got like 1,000 superheroes in New York City alone, like the main, place of it. Like even when like what you call it, No Way Home, finally playing with the idea that like, yeah, Doctor Strange is 2 blocks away from you. I don't know, maybe you could knock on his door and see, can he help you out?
Right.
It's like you got all these people living around the corner from each other, but they don't hear a Green Goblin outside. They don't know New York is under siege. They're just like, oh yeah, nah, Spider-Man got this. I can hang out here. It's like,
That's what I like. Imagine an MCU. I'm thinking back to Columbo. This is my brain. But like Columbo was like once a month, you would get a new 90-minute episode of Columbo solving a mystery. And I'm like, imagine an MCU where it's like every month you get one 45 to 90 minute, like Chris Evans and Oscar Isaac are Captain America and Moon Knight fighting in South America. Like, and then the next month you get Scarlett Johansson and Charlie Cox as Daredevil and Black Widow, which is something I've been waiting for so fucking long. But like, I think that I don't know. Surely they're trying, but I'm like, I don't know why they haven't stumbled across the idea of like, just if you can only get these movie stars for a fucking 2 weeks, then shoot a 2-week.
Yeah.
I don't know, Murder, She Wrote. Like, I mean, if it's that quality, I'm fine with that. I think people people do not like the MCU because of the special effects. They like them because of the characters, and they like them because of the actors and the performance in the characters.
Yeah.
And I think we don't need spectacle so much as we just need story and character, and you don't actually have to spend a lot of money on that. And I would love it. I think one way to regenerate interest in the MCU would be, here is Hulk and She-Hulk. You're like, just really start mixing shit up. Anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Did I make this up? I feel like I remember reading a rumor, but I mean, also, right, there's like a zillion rumors and like one of every 500 are true. But like, I feel like I remember reading that they were toying with the idea of like a Marvel team up series. And I think that would be great. Yeah. Like, you know, I mean, in the vein of What If, where it doesn't all have to be connected, but sure, if you want to like, sure, if there wants to be like one villain that kind of repeats, sure. But like, it would be such a cool and fun way. Like, okay, Echo has to go to New York for XYZ. She teams up with Spider-Man and Daredevil for one episode. That's fucking cool. We get Jessica Jones having to team up with, I don't know, someone like super fucking random, like
Man-Thing.
Yeah, like, I don't know, like, it just, for me, that's a fun way of them being able to like have these characters interact without having it to be like a big crossover event or like, ooh, this character's going to show up in this series. Because like you both said, if Daredevil had been in this more, it would have become Daredevil's series. And I kept
trying to think like, how the fuck? Because, you know, my brain is still like, well, I'm waiting for this weird Jessica Jones like storyline that they've been talking about. Like, how is he going to get out to Oklahoma?
I'd fully forgotten. You're right. I forgot that was the rumor.
And I bet that they shot it. Like, I honestly think that probably did happen. But they just like, well, I mean, they apparently the rumors are like they shot the whole thing, and Kevin Feige was like, "This is unreleasable," and then they did reshoots and edited like 2 episodes out of it. So who knows?
Oh, huh. That is interesting. I probably would have liked a little bit more of her in New York, but I still, love the supporting cast we got.
Have you seen Ian's arms? He's getting swole. And even though he technically did all the work as his trainer, I'm going to take all the credit. My name is Westifer, and I'm an online wellness coach, helping people just like you figure out a nutrition, movement, and goal-setting plan that will make you feel better, and as a bonus, look better too. I've helped clients cut their cholesterol in half. I've had clients lose over 100 pounds, and I can help you on your wellness journey too. So hit me up. Follow me on Instagram @thewestifer to buy 2 sessions and get your first session free. I'll see you in my DM.
All right. Well, I guess now that we're talking about other shows instead of Echo, I guess we'll close. What was your favorite part, Brett?
I mean, I feel like I'd be a basic bitch to say the Daredevil fight.
That's okay.
But I mean, it did make me very, very happy. And I mean, God, I also watched it so long ago. I'll just say the Daredevil fight. I mean, there's definitely something else. Whatever, anything. When Biscuits was trying to sell his PlayStation to make money to fix his grandma's truck. That's a thread I need followed up on, please.
Ashley?
I'll probably say the roller rink fight. Like I think it just not only showed we at that point we were already established the fact that she's like a good one-on-one fighter, but that was a good example of how she kind of uses like her environment.
Yes,
from like even when she like would like she would take some of the like the arcade games and use it to like tie them up, or she'd use the balls from like the rolling game and do it out.
Skee ball, man, those balls are hurt.
Exactly. And then even before that, when they had her tied up, let's it goes back to sort of that street fighting thing that we were talking about. Like not everyone has access to shades that give them access to Stark tech, but this would be how your street level villain. Well, she is technically a villain, but this would also be a look into how your street powered, super powered individual or something of that nature would still be able to take out, like a dozen or 20 bad guys by themselves type of thing. So I really liked how they I liked how they choreographed and illustrated that fight.
Yeah. Mine was going to be a tie, and we both are. It's the Daredevil fight scene and the roller rink fight scene. Because the shot. I think some of the shots, they use the space in the roller rink really well with the cinematography.
Yeah.
Like I love the shot of the like "Make America Skate Again" wall, and then the person comes flying through it.
Yeah.
And I have to mention this real quick. A thing that I liked about the like people that worked at the roller rink that set them up is they looked like regular people.
Oh, I love when those two hench ladies showed up.
Yes.
I was like, I need a whole series with these two.
I was like very happy that
they designing women extras. Loved it.
But you know what I mean? Like I was glad they didn't look like these like, and I don't mean this in like, they didn't look like super fit martial arts. They didn't look like stunt people, right? Like the one was just like tiny. The one was like bigger, and like they were just people looking for money that like weren't that good of fighters. So I did appreciate that.
I love that.
I guess what grade do we give the series? Professor Smalls, you go first.
I give it a solid B. I think it's yeah.
All right. Brett?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if I did not grow up with such an aversion to like C's, where like C's were not acceptable in my household, I might give a C plus, but I would probably say B minus. Like I think it's on that cusp.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say I was C plus, but then us talking about it, I'm like maybe I'm a B minus. So yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle there because like I didn't love it, but I still don't think it's bad. Like I think it's, and because it's short, it's like all right. So it starts off a little slow, but it's slow for 2.5 episodes, and then
just thinking back to the 6 weeks of my life that I spent trying to untangle Secret Invasion and coming up with storylines that were so much better than what we ended up getting, which is a dick fan thing to say of like, my story was better than yours. But goddamn it, the story I was telling in my head actually had intrigue and shape-shifting in it. So, god damn it. It was a good 3 hours. Thank you, Echo.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. This is probably our only new main podcast feed episode for the month. Unless there's any other like Marvel drop that I'm forgetting. We will be getting to The Magicians. Hopefully next month is when it should premiere, our coverage of that. I try to make that weekly, might have a little space in between somewhere there. But yeah.
And should I stump for Sarah Michelle Gellar's guest judging spot on RuPaul's Drag Race whenever that may happen?
We don't know when that's happening, but yes, I'm gonna try to maybe Brett, maybe you and I will watch it like live together over.
I'll get in drag for it. I don't know. As long as it happens in the next couple of fucking weeks. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. If you like Slayerfest 98, you can support us on Patreon, where you can get access to, we're currently going through Buffy season 3 as each episode turns 25, Batman the Animated Series, which I need to have you both on for. And eventually we'll get to X-Men the Animated Series. You can partake in our Zoom watch-alongs, we have Zoom calls, we have a Discord. Any and all support is much appreciated. You can find Slayerfest 98 on all podcasting platforms like Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and other corners of the internet. You can find us on social at SlayerFestX98. You can find me at IanXCarlos. Brett, where can everyone find you?
Everyone can find me and my drag alter ego Barb Hardley on Instagram at Barb Hardley and on YouTube at Barb Hardley, where I most recently counted down my top 10 Marvel Legends figures of 2023. And as soon as I can get into drag, I'm going to try going through old Marvel comics with my green screen, because I got a green screen for Christmas. And also my podcast Must Have Seen TV, where I talk about old television shows, which is I do that in drag on YouTube, but then you can also listen to it wherever you get podcasts. Must Have Seen TV.
Brett, we should do something about Marvel Legends together, because I saw.
Oh God, yeah.
Dayspring, who's a co-host for our Angel stuff, did on his Power of X-Men podcast a best Marvel Legends countdown of the year, and I was like, damn it, I want someone to have me on one of these because I want to talk about my toys.
Oh man, yeah, that was a fun. Although having to go through all my figures while in full drag was
oh gosh, yeah. Also,
hard
Brett,
to bend over.
I want you to know someone paid you a really good compliment that I meant to text you.
Oh.
Someone told me, they were like, well, Brett, you can tell, is a seasoned queen and has been doing it for a while because knows what he's doing. And I was like, Brett will be very happy to know that because it's been
a year, baby. Oh yeah, a year of 4 months. Hell yeah.
It was someone
it
was someone from our live show that they said that about you. Well, you can tell with Brett. And I was like, ooh, Brett will be very happy to know this. And Ashley, where can everyone find you?
Ashley K. Smalls, basically anywhere on social media. I primarily am going back to be more active on TikTok, but I am unfortunately still on Twitter. And I don't really post on Instagram because I don't have any pictures, but feel free to go there, I guess.
All right, everyone. Well, we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.